Just because one wrestler dominated another one doesn't mean that these WWE squashes weren't entertaining matches. Now, one of the hardest match types to make unique and special is a squash match. There are only so many variations to make it entertaining, especially in the modern day, but over the years there have been some brilliant squash matches in WWE that should be looked back upon very fondly. Whether it be the shock factor of a quick and decisive victory, a wrestler looking like an absolute beast, or something else to make it stand out. The rating system we use here at Honor Wrestling Club will determine the very best squash matches of all time in the history of WWE. For shorter squash matches, ratings are not available, though where relevant these will be compared to matches from Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter and Cage Match. When it comes to Honor Wrestling Club's rating system, certain squash matches can only have so high a rating given the storytelling and technical ability are taken into account. So, I'd like to welcome you firstly to Honor Wrestling Club and thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your day here with us. And in today's video we'll be counting down the 10 best squash matches in WWE history. But before we crack on with the list, I'd just like to take a moment to ask you to click subscribe and click the notification bell to make sure that you never miss out on any of our silly content we do here at Honor Wrestling Club. And welcome to the club. Now, let's crack on the list with Heath Slater vs Lita from WWE's Raw 1000. Now, technically speaking, this wasn't anything all that special, but in terms of fun and entertaining, this was a very enjoyable squash match. For weeks leading up to this moment, one-man band Heath Slater had been getting squashed left and right by different legends, including Psycho Sid, Road Warrior Animal, and many more. At Raw 1000, all those who he'd faced came out to prevent him from escaping the alliance of Lita and the APA. JBL hit him with a massive clothesline from hell, and Lita hit her signature moves for a satisfying squash match finish. In at number 9, we have Rey Mysterio vs JBL from WrestleMania 25. Now, JBL walked into WrestleMania 25 as the Intercontinental Champion. A matter of minutes later, he'd lost, quit, and entered into retirement. For a heel as detestable as John Bradshaw Layfield, both on the camera and behind the camera, losing out in a squash match to someone as beloved as Rey Mysterio on the grandest stage of them all was an absolute perfect way to bow out. JBL's attack before the bell, Mysterio's quick flurry, and the post-match quitting from JBL were all really well done, making for an underrated WrestleMania moment on an otherwise dreadful card. In at number 8, we have Batista vs Mr. Kennedy from Great American Bash 2006. This was an absolute mauling. Don't let Mr. Kennedy's brief spells of control fool you. This was mostly a one-sided squash in which Batista looked like an absolute and utter beast. He was out of control as he bloodied and beat Kennedy to a pulp. Kennedy kept fighting back, looking strong even in what was essentially a squash match. His heart and unwillingness to give up made him look good, whilst at the same time making Batista look even more dangerous, despite the disqualification finish. Extra points here were given for Batista's special red and white ring gear, which we thought looked cool. In at number 7, we have the Ultimate Warrior versus the Honky Tonk Man from SummerSlam 1988. How good can a 31-second match really be? Well, with an absolute electric crowd, an incensed Ultimate Warrior, and a victory that brought to an end the then longest Intercontinental Championship reign in history, it can be pretty darn good. Warrior and Honky were never known for their in-ring prowess, but with the little they had to do here, they did it all pretty much perfectly. This squash match was great for both their characters, and it is still among the best victories at SummerSlam ever. It must be said that Dave Meltzer's rating for this match does not reflect the spectacle that it was. In at number 6, we have Bobby Lashley vs Kofi Kingston. In truth, this is an underrated match for the WWE Championship, as can be said for Bobby's entire run. Despite the result not being in question, few thought this would be a complete squash at the hands of Bobby Lashley, who picked apart Kofi Kingston, who sold the beatdown wonderfully. It was drawn out, but that was by design, as it made Lashley look like an animal picking off his prey, piece by piece. This should be looked back on more fondly, as it made Lashley look like an absolute beast. Speaking of the beast, in at number 5 we have Brock Lesnar vs Zach Gowen from the 20th in number 4, we have Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso from Clash of Champions 2020. In many ways, this was a really clever squash match, disguised as a back and forth main event. Sure, Jey Uso got some flurries and near falls in, but for most of the match he was beaten down methodically by now tribal chief Roman Reigns, especially in the last third of the match. No longer Big Dog Reigns just beat him down, piling on the attack as Jimmy Uso watched on helplessly. This could have arguably been more impactful had Jey got even less offense, making it more of a definitive squash. Either way, this put Reigns over as a dastardly heel in a big way. The lack of crowd did hurt this admittedly when looking back, but it allowed Roman to do much more talking, which allowed his matches to feel different and unique to everything else on the card. In at number 3, we have Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler from SummerSlam 2019. Goldberg's image had been damaged during his second WWE run after a while, but this squash match against Dolph Ziggler allowed him to look like a machine once more. Following a near fall at the start of the match where Ziggler nearly scored a shock win, Goldberg unleashed a ran through Ziggler with spears and a jackhammer. The post-match of Ziggler asking for more, only to be steamrolled by Goldberg, was brilliantly entertaining. This match was made by Ziggler's fantastic selling of Goldberg's offense. Sticking with Goldberg, we move into number 2 with Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar from Survivor Series 2016. Over a decade after leaving the business, Goldberg returned to do battle with former rival Brock Lesnar. 12 years after their terrible debacle at WrestleMania 20, fans didn't quite know what to expect hearing in, but few would have expected Goldberg to completely run through Lesnar in 90 seconds. Goldberg, for the first time since WCW, looked like the monster he'd always been billed as. With just a few moves, the crowd went wild for Goldberg, who shockingly won clean as a whistle, in what otherwise seemed like a match designed to give Lesnar his win back. And at number 1, we have Brock Lesnar versus John Cena from SummerSlam 2014. This is by far the best squash match in WWE history, and arguably the best in professional wrestling, full stop. On the back of ending the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak, Brock Lesnar needed to look strong, so he did something no one else had ever done in WWE. He squashed John Cena. He killed and ate Superman's lunch, made him a new one to say sorry, and then ate that too. Lesnar looked like the most dominant wrestler of all time here, putting a beating on Cena with 16 suplexes and more during this extended squash destruction. Despite a few flurries, Lesnar destroyed Cena systematically and ended the match only when he wanted to. It was shocking and it was a spectacle, and in our opinion here at Honor Wrestling Club, a top 5 SummerSlam match of all time. We'll be sure to stay tuned to find out what else will make that list. And there you have it for this list. That brings us to a close. So, let me know what you thought of the list. What do you think is the greatest squash match in WWE history? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And do you have any other thoughts on the squash matches in wrestling in general? What's your opinion on them? Be sure to let me know in the comments as well. But I'd just like to take a moment to ask you to hit the thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video, and be sure to click the subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss out any more of our content here at Honor Wrestling Club. But until next time, I'd just like to thank you for watching and welcome to the club.